everybody, welcome to the studio. I'm Lindy Witten, and shortly I'm heading off to England and Scotland, to the Outer Hebrides, the Inner Hebrides, up to the Orkneys and the Highlands, and I want to take a small set of pastels with me that will allow me to capture the Scottish colours particularly. So I took my half set of Unisons and I've packed them into this small box here. And what I want to do is test it out on some Pastelmat paper. So I don't usually work on Pastelmat. I work principally on Colourfix, Smooth, or the original, or the Sennelier La Carte card. They're the two pastel papers I prefer. But I have a lovely pad of Pastelmat I bought to experiment with, and it's got the Glazing interleaf, so it's really good for travelling and a nice size. So I had two things I wanted to do. I wanted to check out how the Pastelmat worked with the Unison pastels, and I also wanted to see if my palette that I've set up is going to work for the Scottish colours. So I've taken this photo and I've painted it. So that's what I'm about to show you now. I hope you enjoy it. Well, I'm going to Scotland soon, England and Scotland, and I've just packed up a little kit to take with me of Unison pastels into this small box. I must have about, I think, 72 pastels in there, or roughly that, 70 pastels. I want to see if they're going to be a reasonable set to take with me. I haven't got a lot of luggage. So I've pulled up a photo from a previous trip to Scotland, and I'm going to be painting that with this set just to see if it's complete enough for me. This is a piece of Pastelmat. It's a grey one. I wouldn't normally use grey, but I had that sitting around, and since it's just a practice one, I thought, why not? It'll help me see how I like painting on grey, which I never do. And also, I have a Pastelmat pad. I have a Pastelmat pad to take with me, but I don't usually paint on the Pastelmat, so I thought I would give it a go. I mostly use Colourfix. Let's get on with this and I'll talk about that later. So I'm going to start off just blocking that in. I'll move this so we can pop the photo there and you'll be able to see it, almost all of it. And I'll put it up on the screen as well. So I'm going to start by laying in the sky and those background hills just to set the main lines. I'm going to start with let's just start with this will show me whether I've got what I want. A kind of a bluey colour to block in the dark shapes of the hills there. I don't want it quite that dark. I'm going to shift to a brown colour. Maybe it's that kind of a brown, and I'll worry about it as I go on, getting it the exact right. It's just to block in the main shapes right now. So just bringing down a bit of a an idea of the main shapes, and I'll go back in later. I'll set that back about there. That will just, while I'm at it actually, I'll just pull a bit down here for the reflections. So that's that. I'm going to take a blue to go in the back there for that hill back there. These are not really the right colours or the right. Let's take that blue instead. All the right values at the moment. I'm just having a little play around with them. I don't intend to take any hard pastels, so I want to see if I can get all of it done with just these simple set of half stick unisons. I'm going to go back in with that dark one there just to set some darks. A little bit of dark on that, but not so much. I'll go back in with this and knock that back a bit. So that might get a little bit of this blue just over it there as well. Might bring that blue back into here. Just trying to get the sense of distance. That one's quite light because it's under the clouds. So I'm putting it in there, then I'm going back in with a much lighter blue. And I'm going to bring the clouds, the sky down right now. So it's not in white, it's in a greeny blue. I'm just bringing it down and bringing it over that mountain and up and around this hill here. I'll do a bit of sweeping in, and I'll take now another paler blue that pops on up in here. I want to keep it quite moody. It's not not very bright this day, so I'm using some of that, which I'll run up through the sky again through there. I'll look for something paler now. I've got a pale pinky sort of colour here. I might add a little bit of that in. Quite a cool sky, but let's put a little bit of warmth to play off that cool. Remember, I'm just testing out these pastels, so I'm not getting too worried about everything being exact at the moment. I want to pop in the foreground there, that hill there. So putting that in a sort of greens. They'll be much darker shortly, but right now I'm just blocking in those shapes of this headland and these trees here, getting the sense of where that's all running. Comes quite far up there in front of that hill back there. And that green's reasonably good for that. There's some lighter greens as we come forward, so I'll put a few of those in. A little bit of that lighter green over here, quite light through there. And I also want to put in some, not quite yellows, I'm putting a little bit of yellow in. Because I want it to have a little bit more colour than it's got in there. But really what I'm after is probably more this kind of colour, adding a little bit of that in. And I'm going to add a little bit of touch of that up through the hills as well, down through here. A little bit along the shore there. It's not going to stay quite that orange. I'll take a darker version and pop in as well. Bring some of that down through there and start adding in some extra colour and shape in through there. My biggest, well, I'll be there at a different time of year than I was last time, but I do want to make sure that I've got enough darks, enough of the sort of muted colours. I'm just adding in some darks across here and up. That's in a sort of green, but I want to make it a bit bluer. And one thing I've realised already is I don't really have a dark enough blue. I've got this purpley colour, which does add some depth in there. But I think I would like a darker blue. So it's a really good way to find out whether you've got all the things you need. I'm going to pull down some of these colours down into the water here. Add a few deeps and darks along there, along with some of these warmer colours for the seaweedy bits we get. The shore along here isn't quite so defined as the shore here. So the shore here is going to be fairly dark, but not so there. I'm going to add in some reddy colours as well through there, and some mauves. I feel it needs some mauves as well as the yellow, ochre sort of sienna colours. Just getting that, pulling that over and adding them into this area here. Softening off those. I don't want them to be so harsh through there. So I've added some mauves to there. I'm going to go back now and soften some of these colours. It's already becoming clear to me I haven't quite got the colours I need. So I'll have to do a little bit more searching through my sets to find what it is I'm going to need. Just gently dragging those over there. And adding a bit of the browner colours here. I'm going to go in with a few greens as well. So I was there in autumn last time, and this time it's going to be spring, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be quite different. So I'm not making it too green, but I just want to add drag a little bit of green over some of those hills as well. And that green is just going to get dotted around here for some trees. This is not right here. It needs to be lighter behind, so I'm going to go back with something a little bit lighter for those. Very light back there. Bit lighter there. And then quite dark here. I'm going to go in with a bit of a chocolate colour, which will get lightened off as it comes forward. And I'm going to try some of this. So I'm just trying all the different colours I've got in here to see which ones are helping me and which ones I might not need. And you can see it's just keeping on trying to catch some of those colours up on the hillsides. And make it a bit more interesting than this very flat grey painting. I want to get some of this in now. It's got quite a dark chocolatey kind of. That one heads out towards that point, which is quite good because it moving my hand around in different directions as it comes back here, it becomes less chocolatey, and it's got a more mossy green, olivey green, which is not really this green, but I'm going to put it in to start with. Just dragging it lightly over there, a little bit in a few places here. And then to help with that, I'm going to put in some warmer of this as well, just dragging that through as well. There's more of that as we come down here. A little bit more like that around the edge. So I want to keep the feeling of the green on top, but some of that other colour coming through. And as we come forward, it's getting quite a lot darker through there. The Unison slide really beautifully over the paper, so I'm happy about that. Well, I know this is vegetation, and normally I'd be saying go a few motions like that, but it's quite flat, so I don't want to give it too much of a sense of that. But I do want to create a rhythm of connecting these and not having, too many just big dark patches. So I will sort of rhythm that green coming through. As I come further forward, it becomes more of a neutral colour, so I'm adding in a little bit more of that neutral colour, but I do like the reddy kind of colour as it comes forward too, so sort of more intense red is going to have a few little features in there as well. It's not quite dark enough around the edges, so I'll go back in and add some of those nice sort of marks going through. And I want to deepen it up underneath the trees up there, so just popping in something dark in the browns and then giving the back of the trees a bit of darkness there too. That grey is not working too badly for the pebbly bits on the beach, so I'll add a few little extra bits in there with this blue grey, and then see if I've got not quite as many neutrals as I'd like. Put a bit of this one in, a little bit of a lighter one over the top of the blue grey, and that should give me the sensation that there are some rocks back there. I need to put some reflections down here of the sky, so I'm just going in where there's some water coming out to here. To get an idea that there's some water reflections. Some of this is wet. As it comes down here, we can see a little bit of what's going on underneath the water in terms of pebbles and so on. And I'm actually going to use this kind of neutral thing to make a few suggestions there of what could be going on underneath the water surface. So these are suggesting little rocks and pebbles. And I'll go in and they've got a sort of greeny tinge as well to them, so popping them in like that before I glaze over the top of it. There will be some little bits of seaweed straggling around here, which I'm going to pop in with these sharper marks with the edge of the pastel so that I get a little bit of movement going on there. One thing I do really want to put in is the orange boat buoy there. So I'm going to move it a little bit further in than it is there. I'll probably sit it around about here. And I do want it to reflect. I don't want it just to be sitting on this, so I'm going to pop it in there. Just getting, and I want it to reflect down here. So that needs to be water around it. Make some water there. And I want to have a bit of light shining on the top of it. So here goes the light in. I'll pop that water over it again. I'm popping a bit of blue in as well because that is reflected from the sky. And then down bottom it's going to be a little bit darker because that's shadowed. So I can put a little bit of darker colour in there. And I can even make that slightly darker right at the base. So it's really got that shadowed feeling. So I don't really want that bit of water back there. I'll go in. I've got the boy now, which I thought was important. It's got some little numbers on it that we can see there, and I might put them in and I might not. We'll worry about that later. I want to have a suggestion of some. You can see here, there's little houses along there. They're quite a way away, so I'm going to put a suggestion of those in just in using this light grey, and it will just be pulling them down into the water as well, so that we've got some reflections going on there. And around those reflections, it's quite dark in the water because it's this hill reflected. This hill is going to get a few of these neutrally browns in amongst those trees as well. So kind of tied in with the rest of the browns. I don't want it just to be sort of a green. I do need to think, though, about getting a better blue, a darker blue, to give me a bit more depth. At the moment, I'm currently using a purpley, yeah, I suppose it's a purpley blue. And that is helping to get me some sense of depth in some of those areas, which is helpful. And all that needs to be going into the water as well. So pulling some of this down. I'll have to go back and add those lights again. So I'm putting the darks in, pulling them down into the water. I need to put a little bit of that green in as well. Pulling it down. And it's probably not quite as deep as it needs to be there. It can be a bit broken because the I forget to talk to you, don't I? It can be a bit broken because there's a little ripples going across there. There's a few boats and so on, so I don't mind it being a little bit broken. I'm going to add a little highlight on those bits of shore back there, just to brighten it up. Now I need to add some of those colours. I gaily added lots of colours up here, and I didn't at the same time bring them down into here. That's what I'm doing now, bringing some of those colours down into there. I'll add some of those purples that I had in. I had some greens, so that green's coming out again. And a little bit of darker colour up the top here. And it will be slightly darker than than this was. And I think I'm going a bit too overboard here with the dark. But it does give you a nice sense of contrast. So I'll put it in and then I'll knock it back by pulling it down a bit. I'll add some more of that into here. Got a nice sense of maybe this colour. I think just this colour is what it is calling out for. So a little bit of that will go in now. And we'll pull that. As I'm going that way, I'm going that way. So I want to get some of those movements, some of that movement in. And where it comes down here and it's quite dark, we'll start to get some of those ripple effects where it's rippling into the water. So I need to get more of the water in there. That's a bit too blue. Let's go back to this blue. And as I come back here, I want to glaze over that, but it's going to be something slightly darker. I'm going to add in a little bit of this colour and be glazing over that, and a little bit of this. We don't want it to get too interesting here and pull our eye out the corner. So I'm just adding a bit of this colour softly through. If you get those sharp lines, when you pull it, lift it so that you're not getting sharp lines. You can give them a little, if they've got a bit sharp, go over them again with, I've done it again. It's very easy on these suede kind of papers to get marks you don't want. Just go back in and bring your other colour over it to knock back some of those sharper marks that you're not after. And that will help to blend some of that into the water as well. Some of the paper colour is working through there as well. I need to add in a lighter colour on top of this, just a few little wiggles around there so that it's got a little bit more depth and variety. I did like that reddy colour I used too, so I'm going to add a few little touches of that around here. Now, out in the water, there's some of this seaweedy bits too, so I'm going to jiggle this through there a little bit. I'd probably get out my hard pastels and do some of this now if I wasn't just testing out this box to see how suitable it's going to be for what I want it to do. So right now it's just adding in little bits of... So maybe what I'm finding is I could do with one or two hard pastels as well, just for some of these nice little marks that are the seaweed. They help to create a nice pattern that goes back here. And they pull out a little bit over the water here. So you tend to get a little pattern of that and a little pattern of some blues in amongst there too. So I'll put some of those in, which are more of the blues that are behind there. I kind of missed that bit of the cliffy bit there. So I'm going to put that in now because and pull it down a bit with my finger to blend it a little bit, soften off the edges slightly, maybe pull a bit of that over it, and then let the water have a few little ripples along the edge there. Bringing in just a little bit of warmth back into here. Which I then need to add a bit more into the sky there, where those clouds are. So just pull that a little bit back through there. That's fairly good. I've got the values fairly well. I'm not going to put that house in there because it's just pulling the eye too much. Just popping in a little bit more coverage in the sky. Accidentally covered a bit of the hill there, but I'm not sure that I mind. If I want to get it back, I'll just take that in. And there's some blues down there. Tidy that little bit up. What I want to do is take some of that orange, not the brightest orange, and add it to this boat back here, and add a little add some of those more of the boys in the water. A little bit of the dark side. I'm looking at it now thinking, what are the other things I need to do? That hill, I need to bring that hill up a little bit here and bring it across like so. So it's pretty easy to vary that a little bit. And I'll put a little bit of shadow coming down on some of those valley bits there. But I don't want it as dark as I've made it. So once I put that dark in, I just go over it lightly. I did discover down here that when I tapped it, a lot of that pastel falls off. It's really was quite astonishing. So I didn't expect that. So I'm just darkening up this area again. And I don't really want my eye attracted there, so I'm not going to do very much there. Where I've put this in, I'm actually going to do some little dark squiggles through as well. And then just a few of the lighter squiggles on top for that seaweed. And maybe pull it back this way rather than coming out of the picture pane. So it won't be just those colours, it'll be these colours as well. Add a little bit more of that through there. I would like to delineate back through the edge of here a little bit more, so I'll put that colour in, I think, and maybe the suggestion that there could be a small boat over there. That's not a very good suggestion of a small boat. I'll get the mast in. And so there's a little bit more. I'm not sure I needed that over there, but anyway, I've popped it in now, so let's leave it there. I'll make a little bit more of an adjustment on the shore, and maybe pull a few of those blues up into the You could play around quite a long time here, couldn't you? Just adjusting and changing and flicking around. It is giving me a sense, though, of what this set is going to do for me when I am in Scotland. That is far too white over there, so what I'm going to do now is really try and knock it back a bit and make it a little bit. Pull it down with my finger to suggest a bit of a blur, to suggest maybe a bit of motion going on there. All right, I think I'm going to call that done. I've made a mistake with that, haven't I? It's nearly halfway up, but it is a third. I could have moved it down to here, but I've got it there now, so I won't worry too much about it. I will decide where to sign, and I think I'll use the orange to sign, and perhaps over here. So that will create a bit of a movement of those orange shapes, colours there, which will move us around a little bit and stop us pulling out the bottom of that painting. I'm going to call that done. I think it does represent some of those Scottish. You know what else I need to do, though? You call things done and then you realise that boat hasn't got any reflections down into the water. So I needed to put that in, and I needed to put the bottom of the boat slightly darker where it meets the water. That boat also needs to have some little reflections, as does that one, and I need to reflect down the masts. And you're not going to see that very much because of it's lost in the other reflections of the sky coming down there. Okay, let's call that done. And I think that this little box will be able to represent Scotland quite well, especially if I layer. Well, I hope you enjoyed that small demo, checking out whether the set I put together was going to work for the Scottish landscapes I'm planning to paint shortly. And I think it will do fairly well. I really think I might need to add some more bluey, purpley deep, so I'll dive into my Terry Ludwig darks for that and just take a couple of those with me. Otherwise, I was pretty happy with the colours I had. So I'll thank you for joining me, and I hope that you might come back and visit another time in the studio with me. If you would like to get notified when videos come out, just hit the subscribe button, which I think is over there. Or it could be over there. I'm pretty sure it's over there. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching again. Bye for now.